Mr. McMahon and myself, we brought back to the committee our report at our last meeting, and the board approved PROACT to be our search firm, superintendent search firm. As a result of that, today, Mr. Gary Solomon, Chief Executive Officer, CEO of PROACT, and Mr. James Guerra, Vice President of PROACT, will lead us through the plan of action as we proceed. Mr. Solomon.
Fantastic. Thank you all very much. How's everybody? Good. Good to see you again. As part of our process to work with the Board of Education and greater community to find the next superintendent for the DeKalb County Schools, we've outlined a timeline and a process that we hope to talk to you briefly about tonight and field any questions, comments, or concerns that you might have about the documentation we've provided to you. Just to provide you as a board and the community at large with an update of where things have gone since we've last met with you, or for those of you who are new to the board since the last time we saw you, we have begun working with the Board of Education and the district to identify key members of the community that we could include as part of a transparent process towards the selection of your next superintendent. We spent a good part of the majority of time over the holiday vacation identifying locales, times, loosely based schedules, and arenas for public engagement, ceremonies or sessions, as well as identifying on a very broad level different community organizations, groups, and individuals we should contact as part of the search process. One of the things that we presented the last time we were here is a timeline for the search, and in that timeline it called for an extensive amount of community engagement. The process that I'd like you all to take a look at, or the timeline that I'd like you to take a look at, will not change no matter the depth or length of community engagement that we do, but I want to make sure that the board is on the same page with an overall timeline for the search. If you look at page 4 of the documentation that I gave you, it calls out, and it looks like this for those of you who are leafing through now. It's a single sheet timeline that identifies the search calendar for activities as we would move forward. It calls for a great amount of community engagement in January and early February, reporting back to the total Board of Education upon our findings from the community, getting involved and getting set up a liaison group to work with the community, with PROACT, and with the Board of Education throughout the duration of the search, recruiting, marketing, doing a national campaign to recruit local, national, and regional candidates for your superintendency, ultimately presenting a slate of candidates to the district and community for consideration, and ultimately in June selecting your next superintendent. Regardless of the details of the stakeholder engagement or the depth and quality of those conversations, we wanted to make sure the Board of Education was still on the same page in terms of having a June hire of your next superintendent. That would give us adequate time to recruit, adequate time to travel, again, locally, regionally, and nationally, to attract an intersection of talent for your board's consideration. So that's one of the things I was hoping to hear feedback on today. Secondly, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our process for stakeholder engagement that we started today. As you all know, and your community we'd like to know, we spent some time with each one of you going over some key questions and some driving guidelines for our work in terms of recruiting a superintendent, and we appreciate the time and input that you all gave us. What we will do as a first step is we'll take that feedback that we received from each one of you individually and meld that with what we learn from you as a board collectively, and beginning to shape a position profile. And then working with your community in the depth and manner that we intend, we will take the totality of that information to put together a position profile for the Board of Education to consider that we will use to recruit for your next superintendent. We think we've made great headway with your board staff, and thank you to Ms. Tyson for how valuable you've been to us in helping us gather information to do this important work. And we think the process we've laid out and the conversation and dialogue that we started today will lead us to be able to create an intersection of very talented folks that will get you to the place where you need to be in a timely and efficient way. In looking at the documents that we presented to you, again, the overall timeline we want to get buy-in for and support of the Board of Education for. In terms of the depth and levels of stakeholder engagement, we're still in the process of gathering information. We've gathered from each one of you independently today, but we want to cull that into a manageable document that we could share at the board as a whole to have a more concrete plan. I know some of the questions that came up during the earlier work session, you were asking for some very concrete things being addressed in the things that were presented to you, and getting in the room with you and starting to talk to you today about getting your feedback on individuals and groups and characteristics and skill sets. We'd like to reserve the right to come back to you at your next board work session to present a very concrete plan for you of engagement with the different individuals, the groups, the times, the locations, and have a communication plan so that, again, everybody in your community can agree that it's an inclusive and transparent process. Questions by the board?
Just one plan?
I'm sorry?
Just one plan?
I'm not sure of the question.
As opposed to a couple plans, you have to make a couple decisions, as opposed to saying, well, we're definitely going to do it this way, or you could do it this way, or you could do it this way.
We're going
It's
to
up
make
the
some
board.
recommendation based upon what we learned, and what we hope to do is create a scenario that has support of the full Board of Education.
And bring back to us one plan.
We will bring back with you our recommendations for a plan moving forward.
Okay, thanks.
Any additional questions?
Chair.
Mr. McMahon, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Chair. On your timeline here, you had stakeholder engagement activities, and I just wanted to align your timeline with what you stated with coming back to the board at our next meeting, which I don't, where is the next meeting on the timeline?
I don't think it's there. I think you're voting on that at your 7 o'clock meeting today. Correct?
You what now?
You're voting on your next work session for the new board at your meeting this evening, correct?
No, he wants to know
No.
what's the new date, what's the next meeting date?
The next meeting date would be, what is that date?
It's the first Monday
Hold
of
on.
February.
It's always the first Monday of the month. Usually.
Except this month when Groundhog Day.
February 2nd.
So that would still remain consistent. We'd do the stakeholder engagement. I think the critical part of the stakeholder engagement is to make it known that we're doing it. And we've been working with Ms. Tyson and the full staff of the office to chart out a regional and strategic plan to get all regions and all walks of the school district involved in a very convenient way. We're also putting together right now an online survey that people could participate in, and to get a schedule outlined to you, and then get that information to your local media, to your constituents, so we could start working on this plan and create a total plan to present to you, and for the role of the liaison group as well at your first meeting in February.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you very much, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month with the plan after you gather your data. And I'm sorry, Dr. Irwin.
No, I just wanted to know if we were going to do any discussion on the draft that you had before. Did you want to hear comments on this or not? Or
You know what,
just
why
hold
don't
on to
why don't
it?
we leave that as a discussion
Okay.
document for now, because what we want to do is gather feedback from everybody, and today you guys have been fantastic
Okay.
making yourself available. Even we were running late on one, and I very much apologize for that, but you're, because of that. Well, I just threw you right under the bus. No, but I appreciate your candidness and your honesty and your openness in having this conversation with us today, and everybody was really raw and authentic with their feedback, and this is probably the single most important decision that you all will make in the foreseeable future on your next superintendent, and it requires that type of dialogue. And I hope that we've done our part in starting the dialogue with you and maintaining that level of discussion with you, that everybody's comfortable moving forward to have a free and open conversation about the skills and talents necessary to replace what is a very high-producing superintendent.
No.
All I know is we've heard that Michael Thurman has a vacation plan starting July 1st.
See, he told us June 15th.
Well, on
For the
behalf of
record,
the
he did not say June 15th.
on behalf of the board, we sincerely thank you very much for your work, and we look plan to working with you to produce a positive effect, and we appreciate it very much. We'll see you next month. We'll see you, I'm sure.
We'll be nonstop talking.
We'll be nonstop. Okay.
Thank you,
Well,
everybody.
thank you so very much. Very much.